Hello and welcome to Soundproof. Today I will be discussing how to replace the operating system on your computer or laptop. First, I'd like to apologize for how this will be recorded. Normally, you'd want to use a screen capture software whenever working on a computer. However, given that we will be removing the OS from the computer, no screen capture software can be utilized. The only materials you will need is your computer or laptop. If you have a laptop, a power cord to supply it power, and then a USB carrying a bootable drive. Step 1. Physical assembly. All the work that you need to do for this is to plug in your computer or laptop if it isn't so already, and then take your USB port carrying a bootable drive and go ahead and plug it into your computer. Step 2. Accessing the BIOS. When you first power on your computer, begin to gently tap the F2 button on your keyboard until eventually you will enter the BIOS, also known as the Basic Input-Output System. This will bring you to a menu where you can access different parts about how your computer itself will operate. Step 3. Changing the primary boot. Your computer defaults to running whatever boot is on the hard drive of a computer. So here, you want to use the menu to change this priority so that it will try to use the boot off of your USB stick. From here, we will access the Boot Sequences menu. This is where you can change the boot priority of the computer. Here on the right, you will see that we have reprioritized USB storage device over anything else. This means that it will automatically use whatever boot sequence it can find on a USB storage device. Step 4. The first time run. Your computer will begin to boot as normal. Get your hand at the ready to press F12. When your computer begins to start up, in the corner it will tell you to press F12 to take you to the one-time boot menu. One click will do, but it's always good to cover your bases. When you get into this menu, it will ask where you want to boot from. Use your arrow keys to go over the USB device and hit enter to select it. Step 5. Navigating the OS installer. This part is rather straightforward. It'll go ahead and give you a menu that for the most part you can really navigate on your own. It'll ask what country you live in, what keyboard layout you have, etc. Once you've filled these in and clicked next, it'll say install now. Given it's the only option on the screen, go ahead and click that. After some time of loading, it'll prompt you to give it a Windows Product Access Key. I don't have a Windows key, so I'm going to go ahead and click the option specifically listed for that. The next screen asks which version of the OS you'd like to download. Each have advantages and disadvantages, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the Windows 10 Pro because that is what I am most familiar with. Now it'll ask me to read and accept the terms and conditions. It's your choice if you actually read these or not, but you will be held accountable regardless of whether or not you have actually read them. Windows will now ask if you would like to download the suggested settings or use customized settings for the download. I will pick the customized settings for my own purposes. Here I select which drive I will be downloading my OS to. Next we're going to select a drive. Select a drive. Michael? Alright, looks like we're doing a surprise step. The computer ran into some trouble trying to recognize the drive we were instructing it to download to. It took a decent amount of time for the error to be recognized, diagnosed, and then eventually dealt with. Now, of course, it would be helpful if I go into the list of every single possible problem you could run into throughout this process. It would be impossible to cover all of that in a single video. Whenever you work with computers, understand, people have been building, modifying, and of course fixing computers since the invention of the computer. And likewise, people have been making videos about how to build, modify, and fix computers since the invention of YouTube. The internet is your friend whenever you have a problem with a piece of technology. Not just I, but even my tech support Mikester went to the internet to help find the root cause of our problem and thankfully found the problem as well as the solution, which brings us to Step 6, the easy part. This is the part where you just want to sit back and let the computer process every input you've given it up to this point. It will take some time to the point where it actually seems like it's run into a fatal error. It hasn't, it just needs time. Make sure you have something nearby to do, like a video game, or a book, or figuring out the Da Vinci's Code. This can take a while. The patience alone needed just to sit in front of the computer and wait for it to process everything, it takes some metal. But thankfully, it'll eventually get to the point where it leads into Step 7. OS Setup. Your operating system will begin to ask you questions about your personal preferences for how you want your operating system to be set up. For me, I have Windows 10 and it would show me the bouncing ring of Cortana. This part of the process actually would involve a decent amount of personal information that I don't want to blur, so instead I am skipping altogether. It will go ahead and it will lead you every step of the way. It holds your hand throughout the entire process. As such, it can be redacted without you really missing any important bits of information. Right now it's loading up some finishing touches. It's getting the rest of your OS assembled, bringing you straight to your desktop or home screen. At this point, you have a fully functioning OS downloaded to your hard drive, meaning you can now safely eject your USB bootable drive. Step 8. Installing software. This can be the most lengthy and even the most annoying part about replacing an OS on your computer. You end up with a bunch of default software that simply comes with the OS. This often fails to include a lot of software you want to have on your computer, and includes a lot of software you don't really ever use. So instead of taking your time to download each individual software, there's a website called Ninite, N-I-N-I-T-E, where you can choose multiple pieces of software and download them all at once with a custom-built installer wizard. It's fast, easy, and it makes getting a computer set up a cinch. Well, there you have it. That is how you replace your operating system on your computer and or laptop, along with a few other bits of advice. I hope seeing this video has been as helpful to you as making it was for me. Thank you for stopping by.